say that while interests are not permanent, opportunities are. And if these three leaders who have displayed unprecedented bonhomie, who have decided to move ahead on the road to cooperation and build trust amongst themselves, can realize the full potential of their own vision and words, then viewers, we could be witnessing the emergence of what many people would say is a trifecta for the 21st century. And I use that word with some deliberation because remember viewers, we've seen false starts in the past. These countries have sworn that they will cooperate with each other in a spirit that will help give voice to the global south. But they have flattered to deceive. Here they have an opportunity, as I said, to seize the moment, and that moment has been provided by that man, viewers, to the right of your screens, Donald Trump in Washington. His tariff tyranny has meant that these three countries, who are the worst sufferers, have decided for the moment to bury the hatchet, to come together and work to build an alternative framework to realize the aspirations of the global south. Can they do it? Can they actually arrive and realign the high table of global diplomacy? Time will tell. But the promise, as you can see, viewers, is there. We saw Prime Minister Modi walking into the Great Hall, which is right behind me, to inaugurate and be part of that plenary session. And the first person he encountered was President Putin. Was this a coincidence? We will never know. But they embraced, they hugged, they walked arm in arm, and they walked straight up to President Xi, who took a step in their direction. Viewers, what has followed, of course, you have witnessed all through the day today. An unusual coming together in an extremely informal setting. And very importantly, all three leaders made it a point to tweet these visuals from their personal handles, almost sending a message to the entire globe that they are ready to seize the opportunity that has been provided by the hard-nosed diplomacy of Donald Trump. Trump, therefore, viewers, remains the elephant in the room, the catalyst for what could be a transformation. I don't want to get ahead of myself or of the events, viewers, because optics, as I've told you, sometimes don't tell the entire story. Actions are a better judge. But optics do define a moment, and that moment is upon us. The right choices will dictate whether this moment turns into a truly remarkable turning point. These three individuals, viewers, have met over the last 3 days in a bilateral setting and a multilateral setting. The SCO itself was not seen as an organization that was viable given the competing interests that all its member states represent, and of course, their varied political stories and backgrounds. They all subscribe to different values also. That is a different task. But within this formulation, the RIC countries, Russia, India, China, can in fact make a difference. Have we come now to that moment? We're going to ask some of our guests to dissect it. But I want to first begin with David Sofaer, who is somebody who is aligned with the Trump view of the world. David Sofaer, far from Donald Trump dictating the terms of the conversation, far from dictating the manner in which these three leaders are going to prosecute, in fact, their own foreign policy and assert their own agency on the global scale, these three leaders have thumbed their noses at Donald Trump. Donald Trump realizes that America's influence now doesn't perhaps extend beyond the Atlantic, or even if it does, only to Western Europe. That's where the boundary, ideological boundary, ends. And David Sofaer, this shows that America's power has weakened under Donald Trump. Would you agree?
Thanks for having me on, and greetings from Washington, D.C. I definitely would say that this is a show of alignment and shift of trade. Now, with this new found, what we really have here is an exploratory meeting to say that these countries do not need America as much. Now, this is so far out, this would take a very long time to actually come into fruition. These countries use a lot of tariffs. These countries also have a very different way of government and leadership, from, just all-out communism to Russia. And then you have India as well, which is the largest democracy in the world. So, I think it's very early days. It's definitely a show of
David Sofair, I'm not really talking about whether this coming together is viable fundamentally. We'll get to that in a short while. What I'm asking you really is to comment on Trump's own limited ability to maneuver the conversation in this part of the world. What these three countries have shown is that they are willing to assert themselves geopolitically and pursue their own interests, which is quite clear, isn't it? I mean, there's no point in being denial about that.
Sure. Well, all these countries are already pursuing their own interests, and if they want to partner and go against Quads and all of these other programs that have already been in place, and not deal with reciprocal tariffs, and that we'll have to see how that plays out. So that's where we are with it.
Okay, let me open this up. Let me quickly go across to Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, look, I'm not talking about the viability of this coming together outreach that we've seen at the sidelines of the SCO or under the rubric of the SCO. We're just talking about three countries deciding that their strategic interests should not be dictated by a Western consensus. Of course, they have ties to the West. Of course, some of them have deep connections with the United States, but they've all turned around and said to the United States, this is where you get off. This is where we will exercise our strategic autonomy, not in deference to you, but in deference to our interests. Now, whether those interests align or not, we can discuss later, but at least on the face of it, what we're seeing is a pushback.
Pushback, but I think you're also seeing a point of inflection. All these countries are coming together in a manner of speaking. I think we still have a long road to travel on making this somewhat more formal and taking it to a position where we can say, okay, fine, if the West doesn't want to do business with us, just too bad. We can manage within ourselves. For that, the Chinese, for example, being the largest economy, will have to step up to the plate. Are they going to be ready to do that? So there are a lot of issues on that count. But why I say this is a point of inflection is that I think all the countries have been pushed into a corner where they see a convergence of interests. Now, are these interests going to last for any length of time? And do they see that these interests need to be firmed up so that they can enter into a long-term kind of a relationship, or are these transient kind of maneuvers which are taking place? And I think that is where a lot of questions will be asked, purely from an Indian point of view. There has been a kind of rebalancing towards China, no doubt about it. And that is partly because the Americans have pushed us in a certain direction. But if tomorrow the Americans, instead of doubling down on their bullying of India, decide to back down, how does that change the strategic scenario for us? Do we then go back to the Chinese and say, okay, fine, now our interests don't converge anymore, and we are going back, we are tilting back towards the Americans? I don't think that's on the table as far as India is concerned, right? So there will be a delicate kind of a balancing act we'll have to do there. The same question can be put to China. If the Americans tomorrow were to turn around to China and say, okay, let's carve up the world between you and us, right? How do the Chinese play that out? Do they say, no, we don't trust you, we don't believe in this G2 nonsense, and whatever interests we see converge with other countries of the global south, India, Russia, many of the others, we will double down on that particular aspect of the relationship rather than kowtow to you. We don't know how the Chinese are going to play that. We don't know how the Russians are going to play that. If tomorrow there is some kind of a love fest between them and the United States, and Europe simply lumps it because the Americans have asked them to do it. And the Russians say, okay, fine, thank you, India, you were nice to us by buying oil at one particular point of time, but we right now have bigger fish to fry. So we'll have to wait and see how this cookie finally crumbles. But like I said, at this point in time, I think all countries see their interests converge. The principal contradiction is not their rivalry with each other. The principal contradiction, as you very correctly said, is that the United States, which was the paramount power in the world, has decided to burn the house down, which it itself created post-Second World War. That entire global trading arrangement, the entire global security arrangement, political arrangement, Donald Trump and his company are trying to burn it down to the ground. They don't know what to replace it with. And which is why we see that as the principal contradiction which we have to handle. And that gives us an opportunity to try and...
So let me ask you, on that point, Sushant Sareen, do you believe that Trump harbors delusions of grandeur which have clearly not realized themselves on the ground? If he was such an effective force that everyone would sort of fall in line at his first diktat, then that clearly has not happened. Would you agree at least with that?
Quite clearly, there is some kind of pushback taking place. Look, there have been countries which have kowtowed to him, right? Without any resistance. We've seen Western Europe do it. We've seen some of the other countries which have been close allies of the United States do it, despite the fact that the United States or the leadership in the US has used rather insulting language towards those countries and their leaders. Despite that, they have decided, okay, fine, their interests lie in kowtowing to the US for now, at whatever terms and conditions they are getting. But there is a pushback from many of the other countries. Brazil, India, China, many other countries are saying that, listen, we are not going to take these bullying. And that is what I think is critical. And from my point of view,
Right.
Delusions of grandeur remain. And you can see that in the cabinet meeting. I think Kim Jong-un would be embarrassed by the kind of patronizing, the kind of fawning attitude of Trump's cabinet colleagues. I think even Kim Jong-un would be very surprised. All that the American cabinet did not do was clap like this, like happens in North Korea. Otherwise, they did everything else.
Well, David Sofair, let me just quickly bring you in on that point before I extend this conversation out to Andrew K. Lung and, of course, Professor Jidden. Very quickly, David Sofair, this is quite now embarrassing for Donald Trump. He's overplayed his hand, he's misread the room, and his word is not the gospel. It's quite clear. This is completely indicative of America's waning influence.
At the end of the day, it is a realignment. What America is doing, we are cleaning up historic wars, we are renegotiating trade terms, we are making America safe again, and we are becoming energy independent. Those are our core values. So by every metric,
Actually,
we
you
are
just made
on
America small again.
I'm
sorry,
not really.
you made America small again. It's quite clear. If America was great again, if America had the capacities to dictate terms to the rest of the world, we wouldn't be seeing this convergence.
Well, it's not dictation
We
of
certainly
terms.
wouldn't have seen this convergence. I mean, the things that have been said about India.
Is making trade fair again. I mean, you have to understand what you're not telling your viewers are these are reciprocal tariffs. That we are realigning. How? Well, let's see. India has huge tariffs against the United States. So, well, if tariffs are so bad, how come every other country has them? And how come India has huge tariffs against other countries as well? China also has tariffs too. So let's be clear here that
America threatened China. Excuse me, sir. America threatened China with 145%. The Chinese said, we'll match you percentage for percentage, and America backs off. And they try to collar India. Clearly,
Well, it was a renegotiation.
they're interested in making World Trade Fair again.
That was renegotiation.
Oh, right.
So that was a negotiation
On
tactic.
extremely
and
hypocritical terms. Okay, on extremely hypocritical terms. If you think hypocrisy, sir, if you think hypocrisy is a fair tool, then good luck to you. But let me just open this up, because this gives us an opportunity.
Already have tariffs against us. So other countries have tariffs against us.
Do you want me to go through the laundry list?
Sure,
Okay.
let's go through the list of tariffs now.
Laundry list of hypocrisies.
That started.
But one second.
And then, sure, we could do that.
Okay.
I'd like to do that.
Okay, fair enough. So
that'd be great.
okay, you live in the belief that you're making the world a safer, fairer place, and America great again. That's fine.
Yeah,
look,
sure.
we're not going to join issue with you. As they say, certain people who haven't looked closely in the mirror end up with egg on their faces. Dr. Roxanne Zygon, I just have to bring you in on this. Number one, why do you think these three countries have come together? And why is it that if America is such a predominant power, these three countries have gone against the writ, so to speak, of Washington and Donald Trump?
Thank you for this great question. I say great question because we are practically living in a historical time. And we're experiencing not just the historical context, or geopolitical context, but the existential one. And what we're seeing now in China, the meeting of three superpowers, Russia, China, and India, it's a clear testimony that the world will never return to the same scale, to the same international relationship system as it was before. And it's a clear indication that the United States, as a predominant power on the geopolitical landscape, is getting weaker. And you were completely right saying that actually United States cannot control half of the world, cannot control the political will to move towards multipolar system, more fair system. That the world order that has been dictated by the ultra-globalism, is not working anymore. And the union of these three superpowers is actually the beginning of the new era of the world.
Let me bring in Dr. Andrew K.P. Leung. Dr. Leung, we're sitting in Tianjin. Right behind me is this big media center which abuts the plenary hall where the interactions have taken place. Rare moments where three leaders spontaneously came together and held what they have described as informal diplomacy for the world to see. They've tweeted those videos through their personal handles to send a message to Washington, D.C. But Dr. Leung, we've made a start in a city that apparently the meaning of the word, Tianjin, means to build sacred and golden bridges. We've built these bridges here. Do you think these bridges can be sustained? And how do we ensure that we don't fall back into the same narrow traps of competitiveness that we look to now leave behind? How do you see the future, and how do you see this coming together impacting geopolitics?
See the future to see to what extent this SCO Summit means. You've got to look at the world tectonic plates that are in place since the end of the Second World War. The world order has been largely led by the United States after the end of the Second World War, based on commonly accepted rules, based on Americans' benign, I underline the word benign. The word benign means not just for its own self-interest, but also caring for some of the interests of its partners, including the Global South. And this has served other countries very well. I mean, China benefited from that order, India benefited from that order, and others. But however, under Trump 2.0, this order has been totally discarded in favor of American first unilateralism and coercion and bullying, not only against Americans' perceived existential threat, which is China and Russia, but also against Americans' allies, including India, including the transatlantic partners. So the whole world is thrown up in chaos, disrupting global supply and value chains. And hence, the member countries in the Global South are rallying together not to form a bloc against the United States, because no country wants to make an enemy of the United States, but to recalibrate their relationship with still the world's largest and most powerful country, the United States, but how to negotiate all these treacherous waters and to create a more cooperative global environment so that these countries can pursue their development interests, safeguard their sovereignty, and seek areas for cooperation. That's what's happening. And apart from these dynamics, unlike after the Second World War, the size of China, India, and many countries have grown. Now the size of China is about the same as the whole of the European Union. And then trace back about 40 years ago, the European Union was almost 10 times the size of China. Likewise, India. India is already the third world's largest economy, ahead of its former colonial power, Britain. So the whole world is changing in terms of economics, in terms of geopolitics. And then, of course, the so-called Washington Consensus, which was established after the beginning of shortly after the Second World War, favoring big U.S. companies, and then sometimes they trample upon the sovereignty of their host countries. So all these are coming together and transform itself into what we are seeing now under the umbrella of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which incidentally have expanded to include a lot of key players like the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Turkey, Egypt, and the middle quarter countries, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and additional countries in Asia, including Cambodia. So you can see the Global South are being pushed together, as it were, rather than pulled together. As I said, not to form a bloc against the United States, but recalibrate relationships.
That's an important point.
Seek opportunities.
That's an important point. How that sort of transforms into a permanence, we're going to discuss. But I'm going to ask my colleague Ravinder to pan the camera as I walk and take a bit of an arc. And there you see, viewers, the buzz in this particular center. It's been electrified after that conversation took place between the three principals. Now, what does that actually mean? How does that translate into, at some level or the other, deeper cooperation, more meaningful cooperation to bring a certain degree of definition to this exchange? We're going to try and speak now to Sushant Sareen and get you a perspective of that. Sushant Sareen, the optics from the summit attendance to joint appearances and bilateral meetings are for everyone to see. We've seen that. We recognize that some people are saying here in this particular room that they signal strategic alignment and diplomatic momentum. And these are quotes that I'm reading out from the various interviews that I conducted today. Now, I want you to tell me whether this would have been possible without Trump trying to dictate in his own way to the rest of the world. And if you do agree, what is the one big takeaway in your mind from this moment where we are right now?
So, Rahul, two things. One, it wouldn't have been possible if Trump hadn't behaved like a bull in a china shop. The fact of the matter remains that, look, what is the reason why America had become an indispensable power? There were two things. One, there were economic benefits for engaging with America, which Trump has finished off with the kind of economic policies he's following. I'm not saying the Americans did not need to reorient their economy, but this is not the way to do it, what they're trying to do. And second was the strategic security which closer relationship with America provided country. That's also gone out of the window. Can Taiwan trust, for example, America today? Can any country trust America that America will have their back if they are pushed against the wall? No. So what is the great incentive for being in the American sphere of influence today, if this is the American attitude? Which is why I said this is a point of inflection. Now, the optics that we have seen from Tianjin are spectacular in many ways, right? We never expected this 6 months back. If you had told me this is what we'll see 6 months from now, I don't think I would have taken you seriously. But these optics now need to be backed up by something substantial. All these talks are very good, these pictures are very good, but how are you now going to put the meat on the plate? And I think that is going to be the tricky part. For example, between India and China, there are, of course, all the other issues aside, there is the boundary issue. Can we move towards fixing it? Not just managing it, but to an extent settling it. If we can do it, everything else will start falling in place. All that stock of trust being built up, everything else will fall in place. The same dynamic will operate with other countries as well. And I think that is the direction in which the establishments of all these countries will need to move if they want to take this to the next level. Otherwise, this is a nice photo op. It's a nice signaling thing. But that strategic realignment,
But substantively,
I think we are getting ahead of ourselves at this point in time.
a very good considered view there, viewers. We've got to add the caveats, but we've also got to remember that the principal message coming out here is that America has been shown the mirror. And its reaction, viewers, has not been, how should one put it, anything really to be proud of if you're an American. We're going to look at that now in the next half of this show. An important marker, a watershed moment here in Tianjin, but the reaction in Washington, viewers, much to be desired, a little unhinged, ill-tempered, and unfortunately, it doesn't make America look great. It makes America look petty and small, and we're just going to now graduate to that part of this show. Viewers, we were expecting a reaction from Trump himself, but instead he let loose some of his attack dogs, and one of those, to put it rather impolitically, is Peter Navarro, who is the chief attack dog of the White House. He is also the trade counsel to Donald Trump, decides his outreach and outlook on trade issues. And this man has completely gone off the deep end, viewers, in a manner which is disturbing and in a manner which is extremely insidious. He has weaponized India's original fault line, caste, and he has tried to use that to spark civil war in our country. Viewers, the remark is grotesque. In an interview to Fox News, this man, Peter Navarro, who is not exactly held back on other occasions either, going ahead and even describing the war in Ukraine as Modi's war, has now come out and said that Indian people must understand what's going on. Brahmins profiteering at the expense of the Indian people. We need to stop that. This is what Peter Navarro said in an interview to Fox News. It's not just completely ignorant, but it is also casteist in the extreme. It tells us that America is now willing to go to such great lengths that it doesn't even mind wanting to spark insurrections in our country, set people against people to achieve its ends. That is not, viewers, the work of a natural ally or a strategic partner committed to the same values. That is the work of a non-state actor. That is also the work of non-state actors in our country, an ecosystem, viewers, who constantly uses caste to try and divide us all. The British tried it. It's a colonialist trope. Certain Indians on the left of the spectrum have tried it and continue to use it. And then, of course, from there, viewers, this script is read out in Washington. I don't know who's influenced whom, the ecosystem, whether it's influenced Navarro or Navarro is influencing the ecosystem. Where does the original impetus come from? We can't say. But viewers, I want you to pay attention now to how closely this mirrors the words of certain Indian politicians, one of them, of course, being Rahul Gandhi. He came out and said, if Dalits are failing exams set by upper caste, let Dalits set the exam paper and make upper caste take the test. In other words, viewers, it is upper caste who are failing Dalits by setting exam papers that are not in consonance with the syllabus or with even the teaching tools that Dalits are handed. And therefore, the test is rigged against them. This is the same kind of logic that Navarro is using, that some Brahmins, who are really the trading classes, the elite in our country, specifically in a casteist way, are doing business at the cost of punishing poorer, lower caste Indians who will suffer the most if America, in a fit of fury, jacks up tariffs against India. Viewers, this suggests to me, if nothing else, that this very, very insidious politics has now been weaponized. And it tells us that, unfortunately, we have come to a pass where either the opposition realizes that it is giving tools to our enemies, our detractors, or it pulls back from the brink. Let's open this up for debate, viewers, because we've got a lot to speak about. But before that, I just want you to listen to Rahul Gandhi's own phraseology and then look at what Navarro has said and tell me if they don't look as if they are reading out of the same textbook. This is Rahul Gandhi.
अमेरिका में जैसे हमारी IITs होती हैं, उनका जो टॉप एग्जाम होता है उसको SAT कहते हैं। और जब SAT पहले लागू हुआ तो एक अजीब सी चीज आई कि जो अमेरिका में गोरे थे वो सब टॉप कर रहे थे और जो काले चमड़ी वाले थे वो इतना अच्छा नहीं कर रहे थे। फिर एक आदमी ने क्या किया, एक प्रोफेसर ने, उसने कहा एक चीज चेक करता हूँ, जो पेपर लिखे गए थे ना, उन्होंने वो पेपर कालों से लिखवा दिए। सिर्फ उन्होंने कहा कि ऐसे करते हैं, पेपर कालों से लिखवा देते हैं और फिर वही एग्जाम दे देते हैं। पता है क्या हुआ? गोरे सब फेल हो गए। अब अगर आप मुझे कह रहे हो कि IIT का जो एग्जाम लिख रहे हैं वो सारे के सारे अपर कास्ट के हैं और दलित फेल हो रहे हैं, तो फिर एक काम करो, दलितों से लिखवा के दिखाओ। सो द एंटायर नैरेटिव is an upper caste narrative. This notion of merit is actually itself an unfair idea.
Let me open this up, viewers. Let me go straight across to Dr. Anand Ranganathan first. Dr. Ranganathan, how do you view what Navarro has said, specifically when it looks so much like as if he's reading out of a prepared script that the ecosystem here in this country has been reading out for almost decades?
Good evening, Rahul. Look, suddenly I'm confused. Who is Rahul Gandhi's advisor? Is it Jairam Ramesh or actually Peter Navarro? Look, the fact of the matter is, it's either the ignorance of Navarro or the fact that he's trying to be too clever by half. If he's being ignorant, then he's used the term Brahmin as an invective rather literally, where he's completely wrong, and I'll come to why he's wrong. But if he's trying to be too clever by half, then what he's trying to say is, as many so-called helpful parliamentarians who jumped to his aid have said, that what he means is elites who are profiteering. Then the fact of the matter is, none of the elites are actually Brahmins. Or if he is using that term symbolically, then let me address that issue first. He is wrong on facts. The facts tell you that even if Reliance Industries, by the way, that is run not by Brahmins, was refining the Russian oil as mandated by the Indian government, the windfall tax that was collected by the Indian government on the exports that were done by the Reliance Industries on the exported oil was to the tune of 44,000 to 50,000 crores. That is the tax that the Indian government has gained. So who are elites? The Indian government is elite. Those people are elite who have used that money for welfareism, for constructing 100 million toilets. Are the people who are getting Ayushman Bharat insurance cards or gas cylinders, are they elite? If he means that, then I'm sorry, nothing can be done about Peter Navarro. But the fact of the matter is, ever since Trump got into this imbroglio of trying to be hypocritical and slap tariffs of Russian oil because of Russian oil only on India, not on EU that is buying more oil and more energy than India, or on China that is buying more oil than China, they have twisted themselves into, God knows what, and every single day they're trying to extricate themselves with more and more of the worst. So this is a complete disaster as far as their, trying to correct or improve the relations between India and US are concerned. And I'm not even going into the amazing optics of the SOC where you are right now. Just imagine Trump opens the magazine in Oval Office and staring at him are the three photos of Modi, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. So it's a complete disaster all round.
Sanjay Jha, why is the India-bloc ecosystem leaping to try and rationalize what Navarro has said? We've got Sagarika Ghosh, your allies, etc., all coming out and saying that no, he meant Boston Brahmins, when Dr. Ranganathan has exposed Navarro even on that, suggesting that even if he's talking about elites making money, I'm sorry, it's just not squaring with the facts. What is the problem with India's opposition?
Rahul, Dr. Ranganathan is on record. Play Anand's past videos. And Anand, I'm saying this in absolutely candor. This is not a sarcastic dig on you. Anand Ranganathan, the BJP, yourself, you including, were gloating the day Donald Trump became the president of America. All of you, the entire right-wing ecosystem, plus certain TV anchors who are inclined more towards this government, were celebrating the Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar success story. Why have you changed? Because you have realized that Narendra Modi's so-called personalized diplomacy has caused such a monumental embarrassment to our country. Not just on the issue of the ceasefire, but in terms of the exorbitant tariffs that we are facing today, where Pakistan is getting 19%. So Rahul, before I answer your question, very important to put it in perspective. Today, after Operation Sindoor, Pakistan is closer to United States of America, where General Munir is invited for a luncheon with the President of the United States. They get lower tariffs. And obviously China, the second most powerful country economically and militarily, which, by the way, we all know because the Deputy Chief of Staff said they were actually supporting Pakistan openly during the war. So India is caught between a rock and a hard place. And let's not even try and
Sanjay Jha,
skirt the reality. We are compromised
Mr. Jha,
in terms
you
of
still haven't answered the question.
Yes, which is?
No, you still haven't answered the question. Rahul Gandhi leapt to the defense of Donald Trump when he said that India was a failed economy. 7.8% is the GDP Q1 growth rate, which exceeds anyone's expectations. Clearly, India is not a failed economy, but Rahul Gandhi rubber-stamped Trump's wild, silly, poorly researched ignorance. Now we have the Congress ecosystem, India-bloc parties rationalizing what Navarro is saying. What is this all about? This suggests that either you are giving the Americans a script to read out of, or, my dear friend, you're colluding in an enterprise to weaken the national resolve by abetting in a clearly motivated attempt to spark a civil war in this country. That's the question I'm asking you.
Civil war. Okay, let me answer you. It's very,
of course
actually,
it is.
It's very good.
If you're
that,
going to say that the Brahminical class that doesn't exist is doing business with Russia and the consequences will be borne by the poor. By the way, that entire oil trade that was done has benefited the poor the most because inflation has been kept in check. We've also had tax revenue raised, as Dr. Ranganathan has pointed, which has been recycled and repumped for the benefit and the welfare of whom? The poorest amongst the poor. So
okay, Rahul,
either
Rahul, let me answer you.
You're sort of glossing over all of this by changing the goalpost. Yes, please answer me.
Yeah, I'll answer you. I'm glad Dr. Ranganathan has mentioned reliance very categorically, because Peter Navarro has been not once but several times, including, by the way, the Treasury Secretary, have openly stated that privately well-connected businesses and families and certain very influential businessmen of India were the real gainers, because they were the ones who used the refining of Russian crude oil and then exported it to different parts of the world. Now, we are not going to debate as to the politics of Russian oil. If we want to do it, we can. But the truth is, he has been
we
saying...
We should be debating the politics of what you are saying right now. Sanjay Jha, again,
let's debate it.
You're singling out 1 or 2 families, 3 or 4 families, etc., etc. I mean, look at the hypocrisy. Donald Trump has family business in this country. He's profiting from the growth story of this country. He's profiting right now as we speak from the the retarded growth of Pakistan by becoming, in fact, reducing Pakistan to a client state for his son's company. He has profited around the world. Now, just a minute. I want you to address the central question that I'm asking you, Mr. Jha. I'm going to press you on this. Do you believe that Peter Navarro should be, or his views should be rationalized by the India ecosystem. Sagarika Ghosh, please have a look at her tweet. She tries to suggest that he's talking about Boston Brahmins. I mean, what is going on here? Rahul Gandhi comes out and says, no, Trump is absolutely right. India is a failed economy. Failed? 7.8%? Is that a failed economy? Please answer these questions.
Well, here are a couple of answers for you. I think everyone who has a basic understanding of economics will tell you that the government has to come clean on what is the GDP deflator they use to arrive at the real GDP, because the nominal GDP has gone down. These are questions that will have to be answered.
The Tamil Nadu government is using the same data to suggest that its economy has outrun the national average. Come on, you can't choose which data you want to actually project now. It's the same data. The Tamil Nadu government does it, it's a growth story. The Indian government at the center, the federal government does it, it's playing with numbers. No, hang on, I don't think you have an answer. Let me just quickly bring in Dr. Ranganathan to quickly respond to your charge against him. Dr. Ranganathan, very quickly before I open this up.
Look, Sanjay is free for, airing his views, whatever they may be, and I respect them. But the fact of the matter is, I dealt with just pure facts. Now, is it objectionable if a great Indian company has been given the onus or charge of refining Russian crude? Why is it objectionable? Especially when you look at what the results are. I already told you the government of India collected a windfall tax from the exported Reliance refined oil to the tune of 44 to 48,000 crores. That money has gone into the kitty of government of India. Is that elite? Please answer that question. The government of India has gained $26 billion in the last 2.5 years purely by not buying Saudi oil but by buying Russian oil. Is that the things that elites' pockets have been served there?
I'm sorry, Anand. Anand, just 1 minute. You have no evidence to tell the viewers of the program right now that the benefit of cheaper Russian oil went to the consumers. It did not. And I'm not going to buy your roundabout logic that the government rate revenue that came back into the hands of the common man, it's going in the hands of crony capitalists. And that's the accusation we have against you.
Amazing.
Hang on. Dr. Ranganathan, will you please remind Sanjay Jha the fact that these so-called crony capitalists, the Congress governments have given them huge contracts to build ports. The India-bloc has given them enough business to sustain them for generations. Am I wrong? Are those not hard facts? If they're such bad carpetbaggers, why is the India-bloc doing business with them? Dr. Ranganathan.
No, not only that, the Congress governments erstwhile of Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh had invested the tune of 1 lakh crore in Adani Enterprises. But answer this question. As to whether the gains have been passed on to the consumer, I give you a simple analogy. At the strike of COVID, the oil price reduced to 0 per barrel. You understand that? But was it that the petrol price per litre turned to 0? No. The fact of the matter is that the dollar-rupee fluctuation or the oil prices are not affected and passed on to the consumer because the petroleum sector is used as a cash cow by the government to subsidize other welfare schemes. Now, is this
have you heard of a mark-to-market
In any case,
have you heard of
one second. In any case, look. Excuse me, one second. I'm not going to fall for this bait. Sanjay Jha has hung this out for all of us now to bite. This is not the topic of this debate, viewers. The topic of this debate is that there is a break India ploy. Look at what America is doing. At first, they tried to single out Prime Minister Modi and create a backlash against him in the public imagination. Now, viewers, when that has failed, they've realized that let's set Indian upon Indian. So, Tuhin Sinha, I want to come in here and I want to ask you a couple of questions. Before that, Vivek Srivastava is there with us. Vivek Srivastava, look.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, why is the India-bloc giving Navarro a fig leaf? You are not fond of America, are you? You are not imperialists or pro-imperialists as you constantly talk about. So I want to ask you, why is the India-bloc doing Navarro the favor of giving him a fig leaf? And is that clear indication that you are actually weakening India's fight at a moment when it is asserting its autonomy economically and diplomatically on the global stage? Straight question.
Very straight answer. I give you a red ball and I say, what is the color of the ball? And you say red. and I take it out to another person who's not very fond of you, and I say, "Iska rang kya hai?" He says also red. So that doesn't mean that we are trying to support, or you are trying to support him, or he's trying to support you. If there are certain facts which are universal and for everyone to see, everybody is going to say the same thing. We made a fool of ourselves for the last 11 years. We pushed the American line. Everything we followed them politically, economically, socially. United Nations, we favored them.
I'm talking
we wrote a complaint against China.
About an attempt at trying to destabilize this country. Okay,
no, there is nobody trying to destabilize you. I'll tell you what.
No one is coming to it.
Yeah. The only person who's trying to destabilize this nation is we ourselves. This Prime Minister, this Foreign Affairs Minister, the kind of policies that we are making, we don't need any enemy. We don't need any enemies. We are enough for ourselves. 11 years of psychopathy.
Okay, so that is why. That is why the India ecosystem is going to give a fig leaf to Navarro, because he is talking sense. Yes, Twins, in a quick response, he's talking sense.
Before I come to Navarro,
you've prompted America through your
before I come to Peter Navarro, I'm surprised with the logic of my friend Sanjay Jha. Now he seems to, just because the GDP is 7.8, way above expectations, he seems to be questioning the methodology. The same way they question, EVMs and vote chori every time they lose. So I think the Congress party needs to grow out of this victim mentality. Now, when it comes to Peter Navarro, please understand that his comments stem out of a sense of despondency and frustration that which has begun to surface in the US establishment over the realization that they have caused a lot of damage to the Indo-US strategic partnership, which has been very carefully nurtured over the last 25 years with this tariff excess. So I think, we need to take that view. But yes, racism and, the racist slur is certainly not appreciated. And like you mentioned, the idea for this racist slurs perhaps comes from our leader of opposition, because you missed a very important racist slur which he had employed last year in between the elections on Lok Sabha elections on 12th May 2024. He had made a preposterous comment. He had insinuated that the whole Agniveer scheme has been introduced only so that the upper caste people could go on to become officers and the backward caste people could be made shaheed. So this is the mentality of the leader of opposition, and somewhere people like Navarro seem to be drawing from that. But I think today I think it's more important to focus on the gains from the SCO Summit, and the gains in the short term are certainly a game changer, which the US realizes, which the Congress party also realizes, and these gains would make the Congress party extremely unhappy for the time being.
Okay, Dr. Ranganathan, you wanted to make an intervention there.
This is ridiculous.
Hang on, wait a minute.
Can I come in? Bizarre remarks.
Yeah, there is no.
Both of you can come in.
There is no caste problem in this country, and we don't need
Dr. Ranganathan, you wanted to make a point, and then I'll bring Sanjay Jha in. Yes, Dr. Ranganathan wanted to make a point. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I like to keep it very simple, because why complicate things? Two questions to my good friend Vivek Srivastava. You have annual budgetary allocation of about 45 to 50 lakh crores that Ms. Sitaraman does. Are you suggesting, Vivek Srivastava, that money falls from the skies? Do you not understand that money is earned as tax collected from various sectors, including income tax, including other taxes? Now that goes into a kitty. Likewise, when the government got 44,000 crores as a windfall tax on petroleum exports, that went into a kitty, Vivek. Let's be sensible out here, please. And that money was then distributed. Now, are you telling me that money was earned by elites? Please be sensible. I'm begging you. Please, let's have a reasonable discussion. Thank you.
Let me counter you. Number one, Tuhin Sinha, there has been no problem of Dalit atrocities in this country. Sare khush rahe, caste problem thi hi nahi. There is no reason for reservation. So kindly ask your party to give a statement that there was no need of Ambedkarites in this country and reservation should be stopped. Number two, coming back to what Dr. Anand Ranganathan said, my dear friend, अगर आप जाकर के रिसर्च करें कितने लोन्स हम टॉप 10 बिजनेस फैमिलीज के माफ करते हैं, इंक्लूडिंग मिस्टर अनिल अंबानी, who was embroiled by the ED and he was summoned very recently and the media just covered it up. The man who was given the offshore contract of Rafale for a 12-day-old company, personally marketed by the Prime Minister for him, कहाँ है श्रीमान जी आप? He is going to be behind
You
the
know,
bars.
I-
So now you believe the ED?
Discussing it.
Now
First
you
of
believe
all,
the ED now?
Vivek,
You believe
No,
the
no, no,
ED
आप
now?
लोगों को no, बड़े बिजनेसमैनों का लोन माफ करो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, चाहे 50,000 करोड़ का हो, 2 लाख करोड़ का हो, 10 लाख करोड़ का हो, और आपको कॉमन मैन के लिए पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स में कीमत बढ़ाई
So
जाए,
please
कोई
tell
फर्क नहीं
me
पड़ता.
if you are
This
saying
is
that
what
this
I was
government
talking
is in
about.
cahoots with
You
the
know-
crony capitalists, why is Anil
Yes.
Ambani being raided by ED?
you know,
अरे भैया,
Rahul, what I
it
find
went
very
out of
surprising.
control. They tried their
Out of
best.
control.
Yes, they
Okay.
could not manage it finally.
Okay, one
They tried
second.
their
Yes.
best. 30,000
No,
crore
no,
worth
hang
of
on.
outside
Vivek
loan.
Srivastava.
That is fake
A
news.
man resorts to, look, Dr. Ranganathan, there is no point talking sense on a show like this, let me tell you, because the other side doesn't want to hear sense. They want to project nonsense. Why? Because it allows for an argument to be completely derailed. The facts are not adding up. Viewers, the shameful aspect of all of this is that a man is sitting in America. I don't know which redneck part of America he is from. He goes out there and he uses the kind of Orientalism and tropes, viewers, to describe Indians, label them in a casteist manner, and here you have political parties sipping this invective as it's the Kool-Aid.
You know, Rahul, what I
Viewers,
find very
it is
appalling.
absolutely sickening.
Can I come in, Rahul?
Yeah, go ahead. Finish.
There's
And
nothing
Sanjay
sickening
Jha
about
also
that.
wants to come in. Yeah, finish. Yes.
Truth can be sickening sometimes. Truth
Yeah,
can
make
be
your point.
sickening sometimes.
Twin Sinha, make your
It
point.
doesn't mean the intention.
You know,
is wrong.
Rahul, what I find particularly shocking is that while stoking caste divisions is in poor taste by anybody, whether he's an Indian or whether he's a foreigner, the fact that the left ecosystem
Yeah.
is justifying these caste
Yeah, yeah.
divisions by a foreigner who knows nothing about the country, and where
Can I be connected?
in
Connect
a
me.
trade situation where caste is an absolutely
Already
non-existent
there.
factor, that is what is surprising me. What is the incumbent compulsion of this India alliance to come and defend, of all people, Peter Navarro for his caste slur? I think these people need to behave in a sensible manner. Why it seems that more than the American frustration, it is the India alliance which is absolutely frustrated with the deft manner in which India has handled this geopolitical challenge.
Okay.
Rahul, can I come in?
Okay. So let me. Yes, Sanjay Jha,
I'm
make
still-
your point.
yeah.
Make your point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Make
here
your point,
is
Sanjay Jha.
so
Go ahead.
here is what I tell you. The BJP has got to eat humble pie. Today, Mr. Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, with the failed Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar disaster behind him, has got to go to Shanghai, and everyone in the right-wing ecosystem is thrilled with
He's
why?
not in
Because the
Shanghai,
Chinese
sir.
president-
He's
let
not
me
in
finish.
Shanghai.
He's
Please.
in Tianjin.
Yeah, no.
He's
One
not in
minute.
Shanghai,
I'm talking
he's
about
in
the Shanghai.
Tianjin.
I'm talking about the SCO, my friend. I'm talking about the SCO. Calm down. The bigger point is what I
Okay.
wish to make.
Right.
Today, you're shaking hands with the premier in China, who, by the way, have used sanctions in the UN Security Council, their veto, to avoid any sanctions on terrorists of the Lashkar-e-Toiba that India wanted to be sanctioned. And now you're thrilled to be shaking hands with them.
But we haven't
when
done
China
it at
has
the cost.
protected
No, hang on. We
terrorists in
haven't. No, I just
Pakistan.
want to come in
Can
here.
you
This is a very
imagine?
important point.
Can
We
you
haven't
imagine?
done it at the cost, like Dr. Manmohan Singh did, viewers, of equating us with a terror state like Pakistan. We haven't done it at that cost. The Prime Minister, in his interactions with Xi Jinping, has made three things very clear. Number one, that he's not appreciative of the BRI initiative that runs through the territories of partner countries. And he's actually said that, viewers.
Is it in a press statement?
Number two, most importantly,
a press
the
statement?
Prime Minister. Excuse me, sir, please. The Prime Minister. Let me just finish. Number two, the Prime Minister has also, viewers, said that there will be no watering down of India's stand on Taiwan. How do you think that looks from a Beijing perspective, viewers? We're not saying that everything is hunky-dory. All we are saying is, viewers, that there is an attempt in this country to rationalize invective from America or any other adversary, even Pakistan, viewers. And this has been borne out by the facts on the ground by a particular political ecosystem in this country. And you decide whether this is in the interests of the nation or not. I leave it at this, viewers. I leave the judgment in your court. Thank you for watching. This was a special broadcast from Tianjin. Thank you.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Great strategic partner of America is now seen hugging China and Russia, which is as it should be, but he's lost a great strategic opportunity. Second, he also talked in the street of the defense equipment. Now, anyone who sees visuals of American F-35 falling off every other day from the skies would never think of buying any defense equipment from America. Why should we buy defense equipment from America when they hold us to ransom? They didn't supply us GE engines for many years. They have not supplied us the helicopters which we needed badly for long years. So if you're bullying others, then there's a point when the country says enough is enough, unless those countries happen to be from Europe, who have just given him, who have just surrendered to Trump. But I'm glad that India stood up, Prime Minister Modi stood up. There were voices within India itself which were doubting whether that should be how it should be. But in the end, I think even in America, like Professor Latham just now, people who are right-thinking, people who are sane, who are wise, they are applauding India for having stood up to a bully. They are also applauding India, people like me, because standing up to a bully may not be that difficult, but standing up to a bull who knows no right way is extremely difficult. And Trump is a bull who has just been let loose in the White House.
You know, Ambassador, just quickly asking you before I bring this to everyone else's note, one of the observations is this is quite toned down. This post by Donald Trump is quite toned down. He is still having a crib, but he's also saying they're now offered to cut their tariffs to nothing. And this is in certain categories as of April that was discussed. And it's also mentioned as a second.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Great strategic partner of America is now seen hugging China and Russia, which is as it should be, but he's lost a great strategic opportunity. Second, he also talked in the street of the defense equipment. Now, anyone who sees visuals of American F-35 falling off every other day from the skies would never think of buying any defense equipment from America. Why should we buy defense equipment from America when they hold us to ransom? They didn't supply us GE engines for many years. They have not supplied us the helicopters which we needed badly for long years. So if you're bullying others, then there's a point when the country says enough is enough, unless those countries happen to be from Europe, who have just given him, who have just surrendered to Trump. But I'm glad that India stood up, Prime Minister Modi stood up. There were voices within India itself which were doubting whether that should be how it should be. But in the end, I think even in America, like Professor Latham just now, people who are right-thinking, people who are sane, who are wise, they are applauding India for having stood up to a bully. They are also applauding India, people like me, because standing up to a bully may not be that difficult, but standing up to a bull who knows no right way is extremely difficult. And Trump is a bull who has just been let loose in the White House.
You know, Ambassador, just quickly asking you before I bring this to everyone else's note, one of the observations is this is quite toned down. This post by Donald Trump is quite toned down. he is still having a crib, but he's also saying they're now offered to cut their tariffs to nothing. And this is in certain categories as of April that was discussed. And it's also mentioned as a second.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Great strategic partner of America is now seen hugging China and Russia, which is as it should be, but he's lost a great strategic opportunity. Second, he also talked in the street of the defense equipment. Now, anyone who sees visuals of American F-35 falling off every other day from the skies would never think of buying any defense equipment from America. Why should we buy defense equipment from America when they hold us to ransom? They didn't supply us GE engines for many years. They have not supplied us the helicopters which we needed badly for long years. So if you're bullying others, then there's a point when the country says enough is enough, unless those countries happen to be from Europe, who have just given him, who have just surrendered to Trump. But I'm glad that India stood up, Prime Minister Modi stood up. There were voices within India itself which were doubting whether that should be how it should be. But in the end, I think even in America, like Professor Latham just now, people who are right-thinking, people who are sane, who are wise, they are applauding India for having stood up to a bully. They are also applauding India, people like me, because standing up to a bully may not be that difficult, but standing up to a bull who knows no right way is extremely difficult. And Trump is a bull who has just been let loose in the White House.
You know, Ambassador, just quickly asking you before I bring this to everyone else's note, one of the observations is this is quite toned down. This post by Donald Trump is quite toned down. He is still having a crib, but he's also saying they're now offered to cut their tariffs to nothing. And this is in certain categories as of April that was discussed. And it's also mentioned as a second.
This is News 18 Network.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. It's eerily quiet in Tianjin right now. The city seems almost peaceful, a striking contrast to the whirlwind of diplomacy over the last 2 days. The SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, is finally over. Today was the second and the final day. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on his way back to New Delhi, and while the streets are quieter, the global headlines are anything but. Dominating social media and news headlines is not just the SCO leaders' meeting, but also the Modi-Putin bonhomie. It was on full display today. The two leaders met, they hugged, they laughed, and they hitched a ride together. We'll bring you the inside details of the big bilateral meeting, also the key takeaways from the summit, including the many viral moments and what it means for Chinese President Xi Jinping. Also how Washington is going to look at this. Donald Trump's trade advisor has chosen to play the caste card. You won't believe what he said. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Political crisis continues in Thailand as its largest opposition party holds a king-making summit, but fails to come up with a name for the country's next prime minister. Last Friday, a court had sacked Paetongtarn Shinawatra. The ruling has left Thailand with only an acting prime minister and a caretaker cabinet. Bangladesh's interim leader Mohammad Yunus issues a warning, says any deviation from the planned elections would be extremely dangerous. General elections are due to be held in Bangladesh in February 2020.